It's gone! It's a grand slam! And that's the ball game. This is the Prospects Baseball Show, your inside look at the boys and girls of summer. Here's your hosts, Dean Millard and Jordan Blundell.
Hello there, and welcome to episode 35 of the Prospects Baseball Show in these strange times. My name is Dean Millard, and of course, the head coach and the AGM, there he is if you're watching on YouTube. Jordan Blundell, how are you, buddy? It's good to see you. I haven't seen you in quite a while.
It's been a while, yeah, man. It's good to see you, too. It's good to talk some baseball and get the show back going here.
Yeah, and I don't know when we're going to get our lives back, but we all have to basically do our part. And if that means staying at home, if that means using Skype to get your podcasts, it's a small sacrifice. When you consider the sacrifices of our relatives from the past when they were faced with challenges throughout the world. So I don't know, how's self-isolation for you? You were very smart. You traveled to the United States and came back and said, I'm not taking any chances with this.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel fine, normal, everything's good. I don't want to put my parents in any danger. They're a little bit older, so Coach Boyk and his lovely wife have helped me out. I'm staying over here. They're a little bit younger in that demographic that's maybe not as in as much trouble if something were to happen. They were kind enough to open up their place for me to come over, so it was awesome. I really appreciate them for that. The friendship means a lot. It's been weird. Like, you what do you do, right? Watch some Jack Ryan on Prime. I kind of wanted to get that done, so I got that done. Following the news, getting on Twitter. I've been a little bit more active in replying on Twitter and kind of jumping in on some cool things, and we might get to some of those here in a little bit. Dino, what have you been up to?
By the way, Jack Ryan is good. I finished it. I watched every Jack Ryan movie and then the series. So I kind of tried to go, but they all bounce back and forth, but it's really good. I've been watching a lot of movies, been watching a lot of classic games. I watched Canada Cup 84. I've watched a few Oiler Cup wins. I've been just trying to keep busy with things. I started watching Narcos, which is really good, man. And I didn't know Pablo Escobar was like the Houdini, man, that he could escape from everything all the time. So I've been enjoying that. And I've been playing some MLB The Show 20. Here's the cool thing about MLB The Show 20 is, with all their games, first of all, you don't have to buy the disc anymore. You can just download it. So as you're downloading the game and it's getting everything set up, you're actually playing a game. And it's you can't get out of it. You have to play this game until it downloads. So it's always a rematch of the World Series. So a couple of years ago, I was so pissed off when I had to play this game of the Astros beating and the Dodgers, and all the celebration that happens beforehand and everything as they introduce the game. So this year it loads up. It's the Nationals. It's the Astros, and you're playing that game. And I proceeded with Steven Strasburg to being 17 straight Astros until the game downloaded. I did nothing but throw as inside as I could at every Astros batter. I think I was down 14-0 when the game finally downloaded or something like that. I threw at them the whole time, and it felt fabulous. It felt fabulous. There were no trash cans. It was just straight fastballs at Astros.
I like it. I kind of figured you might be up to something like that when the new video game comes out. So you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, and then I've just been. I don't play the game a lot. They have this full manage mode that you can. You got some friends with you over there, eh? A little Barky Barkerson.
Puppy friend Dolly.
Yeah. There's the manage mode, so it's basically watching a game, and then you throw in a reliever, you bring in pinch hitter if you want to or whatever. So it plays the game while I'm watching something else, and I simulated the whole season. faced the A's in the Braves rather in the first round, and lost in 5 games. My bullpen let me down.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Dodgers
we
bullpen.
talked about that bullpen at the deadline last year on our show. We were kind of.
You were all over that. You were like, "This is the," and my starting pitching wasn't great as well. So the interesting thing, Julio Urias from the start of the game till the end of the season turned into a 92 rated pitcher.
He's got a chance to be really good.
Yeah, I hope so. And he's on my fantasy team, one of my fantasy teams as well. So, but it's interesting to see, play out the season and see what happens. Unfortunately, the freaking Astros won the World Series again. I was so pissed off. So that's kind of what I've been doing, though. I've been trying to keep myself busy that way.
Astros Braves?
It was Astros Braves, yep.
Yeah, I like the Bravos. I had them last year as the team getting through there.
You did. Okay, so that's kind of what I've been doing. That's what you have been doing. And if you would like to get in touch with us on the show, you can. If you're watching on YouTube, there it is, at Prospects Pod, at EDM Prospects. You can check us out online at prospectsbaseballshow.ca, or get all the information from the team at prospectsbaseballclub.com. On Facebook, it's Prospects Baseball Show. And on Instagram, you can find us at Prospects Baseball Show as well. All right, let's go around the horn.
Hey, bada, swing, bada. Got him looking at the curveball. Let's go around the horn and get the big news in baseball.
All right, so we know about Major League Baseball. We'll talk about that in a second, but give us the latest on what's going on with you guys right now as a team, as a league. Is it a holding pattern for everybody? What's the latest chatter going on at league level?
Yeah, well, holding pattern's a great way to describe it. Obviously, our game doesn't work without the fans, so we're going to need to see how this plays out for sure. It's sad and crazy. Everybody knows the adjective to describe what's going on now. So, we're in a holding pattern. So what I've done is, just stayed in touch with the guys that we have signed. I've got a couple more pieces to get. What do you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been hard on the recruiting trail. I've reached out to a couple guys that I've stayed in touch with here, probably since about September with the couple guys I'm on. And, to alert everybody, like college baseball shut down. And I was in Arizona as this was kind of playing out. So, I got down to Arizona on March 5th. Went to a couple games on the 6th, and then got into my recruiting and scouting trip. Like, it was at the yard every day, which was awesome. Mm-hmm. And every day subsequently, some more chatter about COVID and what's going on would, be a topic of conversation for sure. And so I flew out on Friday the 13th. So on the 12th, there was a team that left Tucson that left before they played their game, and they played games through the 13th, 14th. I think their last game was the 15th. They had teams from all over. I think the last games they played there were the 15th. So there was a team that left. Kind of like, hey, school said we can't play, sent them home. And so obviously that was the topic of conversation, and we kind of just went through all that. So it was a little bit surreal looking back. It's a little bit surreal now looking back on being down there and talking to different coaches as everything was playing out of what was going to happen or what might happen, and speculating. And then to see where we're at now, obviously in the world, in North America specifically, is, we're on lockdown. So it was a great trip. I got a chance to meet a couple new coaches, rekindle some relationships of coaches I've known in the past, and just get to see them face to face. Saw a lot of really good players, and that was fun to do. As fun as recruiting and trying to get numbers and working on guys, like watching the games and seeing strategy and seeing players come up in big situations and execute things like bunts or hit and runs, or striking out a guy with the bases loaded, all those things. It was just great to be in the atmosphere again at college baseball. So that was really cool. And then getting back, for me, it's to self-isolate, just kind of stay away from everybody, which is been weird, I guess. Not too bad, but it's different. I'd say it's just different. Mm-hmm. So as far as we're going, for me, it's just staying in touch with players. I've got a little bit of recruiting left to do. We're ready to go as far as baseball operations. There's a couple things on the business side attached to baseball operations that we've put a hold on. But other than that, like the baseball team, we're just really hopeful that we get a green light here and it's safe for everyone. And we're allowed to bring players up and do our thing this summer, man, because all those guys are chomping at the bit, dude. Like, and I know sports is a small part of life, and at the end of the day, life is more important and all that. But there's a lot of people's lives tied into sports and college baseball, and schools and scholarships, and the reason you're going to class and like all those kind of things. And that's not happening. There's no sports happening, so everybody's kind of sad about that. But that could bode well for the summer being the craziest, most intense competitive summer, with all these guys not being tired, not having played, and just can't wait to get going. And if we're able to reap the benefits of that, and that ends up being one of the small positives of all this, I'm excited. I'm excited to get guys up here. We'll see what happens, but me, Dino, man, I want to get going. And the old countdown of like, hey, we're 90 days away, and now we're whatever, like under 60 days away, and we're not sure if we're gonna be going. It's pretty weird.
Well, so much of it depends on how we react right now. And you're doing your part, I'm doing my part. The weird thing is like people have been quarantined before, like for sicknesses, but they didn't have everything shut down around them. Like normally, if you're quarantined, you could watch a ton of live sports or something like that. But it's like every league is on strike right now. It's so weird. There's like a labor disruption in every league called COVID-19, and it's so bizarre. For you guys, you depend a lot on American players, so you're depending on the United States getting their act together. Well, we all are. We are connected with our unfortunate Southern brother, and we depend on them to get their act together, because I think we're doing an okay job, minus a lot of people in BC here in Canada. But we need them, like the NHL, Major League Baseball, all sports leagues, all entertainment, they in Canada is relying on the U.S. getting their act together and getting ahead and flattening this curve as they talk about. So we're really dependent on them and you guys as well with a lot of American players. So you've reached out obviously to your players that are coming in and they're aware of the situation. But what about future signings? Do you just lay low right now, or are you reaching out to a couple of players who are also self-isolated? What's your approach on this?
Yeah, it is a weird approach because for me, it's not something like I want to hammer down on guys. Like baseball is not the priority right now, and I guess kind of balancing how important it is to find the last two pieces and get as good a pieces as we can. And they're players and people, but from the business side, and like the business side, they're pieces to our puzzle. I know whatever players we do sign out of the group of like 30 or 40 guys, we've really had some good talks with, that we're going to get some good people. I'm really happy with the group that we have already, and the guys that I've spoken to off and on here over the last few months, like they're good dudes. A lot of times, like there's guys that just the timing doesn't work, or coming up to Canada doesn't work. Not that they didn't want to play for us. So, and honestly, Dino, with everything that's happened in college baseball and seniors, getting extended a year at the NCAA, NAI, JUCO level, like the JUCO sophomores, we don't know what's going to happen to as they look for 4 years, but now they're seniors that we're thinking maybe I'm going to get a real job and get into my life this summer. now have the opportunity to go back to school, and maybe they already had to finish up after they were done their playing eligibility, and they get extended a year, and now, man, they hadn't played baseball in a while. It's like, maybe I do want to come up to Canada. Like, maybe I'm going to try and make this work. So we've had a couple of those talks with some guys that, weren't sure what they were going to do post-graduation or post-playing eligibility. A lot of guys have to finish up after they're done playing. We'll see. Like, that's opened the door for a few guys that I wasn't that optimistic that we'd have a chance to get, but who knows now? So those are some interesting talks. Like, for those guys, I just kind of touch base and see how they're doing, what's going on. Are they back home with their family? Did they stay at school? What's your plan? Like, how are you approaching life here in the next little while? And I'll talk a little bit about baseball, but really that's the third or fourth thing that comes up at this point. Trying to touch base with guys that I've built little mini relationships with already, right, and see how they're doing. So that's kind of where we're at.
Okay, the Major League Baseball season is obviously, like every other sport, on hold. The one thing I look at, I'm not terribly optimistic there'll be a Stanley Cup or a Larry O'Brien trophy awarded this year. But I'm pretty sure the Lombardi Trophy and the World Series trophy will be. It's just probably going to be, I'm sure they're going to have to shorten the season. Like, there's only so much into November you can play. So we don't know whether whether we get a handle on this in May or June or July. But the Major League Baseball season will return at some point. Unlike this year's NHL and NBA season, which I don't think is going to happen, time is on the side of Major League Baseball and the NFL, really.
Yeah, I agree. There's ways that they can change their scheduling. MLB, can go down to 120 game schedule, cut out interleague play, like whatever needs to happen. And
right.
Baseball's been a sport that's helped in times of sadness in the U.S. especially. For I just remember what happened in 2001. With 9/11 and everything, and when baseball started up again after the week off, and the country was hurting, and it was an outlet for people, and I think that's what baseball can do again when it's time, is it can be an outlet again for watching people play a kid's game, and families coming together, and rivalries starting up again, and households being divided, whether a Yankee or Red Sox, husband and wife can get back to hating on each other for 2.5 hours during the series kind of thing. And that's a fun part of life. And I think baseball will be able to bring back some semblance of that, obviously, hopefully sooner rather than later. And then what the NFL's the business side seems to be rolling along with everything they're doing as far as the trades and the free agents and whatnot. So we're going to see something that we've never seen before, Dino, and I guess that'll make it kind of cool. It'll be a unique season, and it gives them an opportunity to try some things. No interleague and condensed schedule and rivalries and in division, how many times you play your division. So, and it opens up the door for some creativity to get a season in, and they kind of discussed that with the NHL and some of the ideas they had about tournament style or whatever. So, maybe this is an opportunity for us to get into kind of like the gamer mode of sports and see how creative we can get to get a season in and to give the fans what they've been clamoring for, right?
Well, it kind of will be like a throwback without interleague play, and you're only going to see the American League if you're in the National League and until the playoffs. Just briefly, this just came down as we're talking. The CHL has canceled the playoffs in the Memorial Cup that was scheduled to go in Kelowna. So I just don't have a lot of faith in time for the NHL and the NBA, and I don't want to see a Mickey Mouse tournament. I'm not crazy about 24 teams possibly making the playoffs and things like that. So I don't know. The other thing is that people still are enjoying baseball. I still get beat LA text messages from Jack Cookson daily, which is not going to happen from a Giants perspective a lot this year, but he can still dream, right? He still has to have dreams. during these times.
Well, every fan base right now thinks they have a chance to win the World Series.
Yeah,
so.
well, he knows they don't. He keeps telling me, I know they're going to be bad, but he still likes to throw out the beat LA as it's a lifestyle, he says. I don't know where that anger comes from. Okay, so there are some injury updates as well. Chris Sale having Tommy John. Is it Tommy John surgery that? Yeah. So is like this is I guess why we didn't have our fantasy draft yesterday is because there's some uncertainty into who might be healthy or like. Do you see guys opting for surgery during this time?
Maybe
it's so uncertain.
Sale was shut down, and they didn't really describe it as something serious, and then all of a sudden he was going under for TJ. So if this year's a write-off, why not? 12 to 18 months is the recovery time for that surgery. So, basically the best case is next year for opening day at this point. And they won't do that with him. He'll be a 16-month, so he may be all of next year too. Like he might not be back till 22. So, what you thought it was smart to wait for our fantasy draft? At first, I thought we could go ahead, but I think it was probably smart to wait. Our other league is still doing it tomorrow night. I don't have hardly any picks anymore because I traded them all. I traded for Real Muto the other day, so I made a big deal. So. I don't know, what is going to happen, but does this make create a lot of parity when it comes to fantasy baseball players this year? Because, Justin Verlander is not going to be able to rack up that many innings and things like that. Does it bring some of those other guys, the top guys, closer back down to the pack a little bit because they're just not going to get as many opportunities? Yeah, well, you don't have the laws of average working out over 162 this time. Right. So if you get off to a slow start, you don't have August to pick her back up. Like you're already done. So yeah, it'll be interesting, Dino. The guys that get off to a slow start, like I said, they don't have that runway left to have a good second half. So yeah, fantasy will be different too this year. I got a question for you. Sure. So a fantasy hockey league. What's the general consensus of how to decide a champion of that league? If it's done because they were in the playoffs. We were going into week 1 when everything kind of got shut down. Right. So a 12-team league. How do you decide who the champion is? I coin flip it. Coin flip it for what? Every matchup. Really, the regular season champion has no advantage on this? I don't know. What advantage do you have in fantasy? It's not like you have your own rink. Like you don't get just because you finished in first and I finished in 8th doesn't mean you get a head start in the matchup. You still got to beat me the same way. You're still facing, the only advantage is that the rosters. What's that? It sounds like maybe you finished 8th in your fantasy league and I finished 1st. No, I finished out of the playoff. I finished out of the playoffs, but I'm in the final for the first overall pick right now. Like if I win, I get Alexei Lafreniere in our fantasy hockey league. So it means a lot to me, and I still think it should be a coin flip. I don't know. Best 2 out of 3 coin flips maybe to give, so it's not one. I'm not really sure, but is it really fair? Like in my lineup, I backloaded, so I had a ton of guys playing in the weekend. Well, they didn't get to play yet by the time the league got shut down. So do you really, what do you do? I think that's the only way to do it. Or, there's been some talk about the money is going to carry over to next year for our league. Yeah. And you just don't have a champion. Wow. Because I don't know what else. It's just so novel. Well, this is so strange, right? There's a lot of variables there because we don't have ours wasn't a keeper league, so. Oh, okay. Well, so I think your only advantage is to your only choice is a coin flip, or you just carry over to the next year. But you guys don't have that. I don't know how else you would decide it. Well, I would think the dude that was in first place going into the playoff week should be declared the winner. That's because you were that guy. I was that guy. Yeah. Okay. So Josh Donaldson, the bringer of rain, put something out pretty fun on Twitter the other day about here's his current lineup of current players. I don't think he put himself on his team, right? But
He also
I think
did retired players, right?
Yeah.
So we did ours, and we put it out on Twitter as well. So run through your lineup. I'm going to throw it up on the screen as you tell us about, this is your current players lineup.
Okay.
So we can see it on the screen right now. And if you're listening and you want to watch it, head to the Prospects, Edmonton Prospects YouTube channel. And also check out social media. This will be fed out on those as well. So let's run through your lineup.
Yeah, okay. So current lineup, I've got Francisco Lindor leading off in the 6. He's playing shortstop for me. Mookie Betts in right field hitting in the 2. I like Lindor. He's a switch hitter with some speed. Mookie's Mookie. I mean, what do we need to talk about there?
MVP.
Hitting in the 3 hole, I got Michael Trout. Not sure what we need to talk about there. And then in the 4 hole, I like putting the lefty behind Trout, so I'm going with Bellinger. We call him Belly in our clubhouse.
All right.
Belly's in the 4. And then his buddy Yelich, he's in the 5 in left field. So I got Belly and Yelly, they're best buddies. They like hitting behind each other. At second base, I'm going in the 6 hole with DJ LeMahieu. In my mind, like, he's a top 5 hitter in the big leagues. He just is a professional hitter. I love him. In the 7 hole, Freddie Freeman, long-time keeper for me. Freddie's my boy. He's my first baseman. Another big league hitter, consistently, always that guy. In the 8 hole, I've got the bringer of rain, JD. And even though it was JD's kind of thing, and it seems like maybe I'm sucking up, JD's my guy, man. I've had JD for years in fantasy. He's my first keeper, and then Freddie Freeman was my second. So JD's in the 8 hole. That's pretty low for a 30-90, 900 OPS guy. And then hitting in the 9 hole, I've got JT Realmuto. In my mind, he's the best catcher in the big leagues, the full package. You can argue Yasmani Grandal's in there. There's some offensive catchers for sure. And there may be some guys that are better than him defensively, but he's really good at both. The sum of his parts for me, he's the best catcher in the big leagues. He's hitting in the 9 hole, and then I got Jacob deGrom is starting that game for me. And he's going to go 8 solid. And then I'm going to Josh Hader in the 9th to K 3 guys on 15 pitches to get the win. What do you got, Dino? Who's your team?
Okay, well, just before that, I'll tell you the fantasy trades that I made recently. I picked up Realmuto and Brad Hand in a trade.
Oh,
I gave up my second round pick this year, so 17th overall, and a first in 21 and a first in 22.
Ooh.
And Realmuto is signed to a 3-year deal, and Hand is, I think he's a 1 or a 2. So I got him for a few years.
Yeah.
And I sent a second-round pick in 2021 to a team for Michael Conforto to round out my outfield.
Okay.
So there's a fantasy update.
I think he's an up-and-comer.
What's that?
I feel like that's a lot. Like, you gave up a lot, but you got a lot. Hand and Realmuto for a second and 2 firsts.
Yep.
Spread out.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, Realmuto is you're going to be top 3 catcher in the bigs.
Yeah, and I get him for 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's based on what you guys do for your fantasy. I like that. You'd be able to lock that position up at the top of the spectrum for that long. And honestly, Dino, man, the great thing about fantasy baseball is you can find gems that nobody has. So you can replace that second round pick by making a good decision on the free agent wire.
Yeah, like a Mike Fiers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mike Fiers can carry your staff.
Okay, here's my team. It's up on the screen right now. I've got, and I didn't do a lineup. I just did a roster. So this isn't in any particular order because I wouldn't be leading off with Clayton Kershaw, but he is my starting pitcher. I have Gary Sanchez as my catcher. Paul Goldschmidt is playing first base, fantasy, big fantasy guy. So is Kershaw. Biggio, I went with at second base. I like the young up and comers. Trevor Story, fantasy, short. Redbeard, as I call him, Red Turn 2, Justin Turner, Dodger, third base. I'm going with Juan Soto in left, Mike Trout in center, and Mookie Betts in right. So that's my current team when it comes to the Bringer of Rain's list. What about your retired team? I'm going to put it up on the screen, and you can give us your retired team here.
Retired team. See, when I did this originally, I was thinking like all-time greats. So I had Mike Trout in there, and then you did a good job of letting me know retired players.
Sorry, I forgot to change it too. So Mike Trout is actually up on the screen because I just copied and pasted from your original tweet. So I apologize for that. I didn't do that on purpose.
Yeah, you're rubbing it in right now.
I didn't. I just realized that.
All-time team. I got Robbie Alomar leading off.
Yep.
I could watch that guy play defense forever. Switch hitter too. I like the versatility.
Yep.
After Robbie, I'm going to go with DH in the 2-hole Ted Williams. I feel like he could probably get some hits for me.
Yeah.
Probably get on base a little bit. And then I'm going in the 3-hole. Barry Bonds is going to play left field for me. I mean, Barry, that's my era, man. I watched him all the way up. In my opinion, he's the greatest hitter I've ever seen. So we'll see if Trout can get there. For me, Trout's kind of like Mickey Mantle, where I think Bonds is even a little bit ahead of that, which is crazy. In center field, I'll go with my boy Ken Griffey Jr.
Nice.
I mean, the kid, man. The kid. And I just saw on Twitter the 95 ALCS where they played the Yankees. He scored from first. And I remember, we've talked about this on the podcast, I remember watching that coming home from school, being excited to watch that game. I remember that moment. Griffey's in the 4. I'm going to protect him. I've got a lot. Maybe this is weird. I've got a lot of left-handed hitters. I was a left-handed hitter. I don't know if I've got a bias there.
You think any of these guys need protection?
Yeah, I'm going to protect Griffey with Babe Ruth. Yeah. Babe Ruth's going to play right field. He did play multiple positions in his career. And for my lineup, I'll take the best year he played defense in right field. That'll be the year. Got to go with Lou Gehrig at first base. Mm-hmm. The original Iron Man. Where's number 4? It's Lou Gehrig, man. At third base, I'm going with my boy Brooks Robinson. One of my favorite players of all time. The way he played defense at third was inspirational to me as a third baseman. I wanted to be a playmaker on defense like he was. He took hits away every day and just played the game. And I love that. So he's on my all-time team. Johnny Bench in the 8-hole catching. It's Johnny Bench. At shortstop, I went with defense. I think he's like an 11-time Gold Glove winner, Ozzie Smith. A little bit of wheels. Not the greatest hitter, but he's hitting in the 9-hole. I think I've got enough offense in this lineup that I went with the glove on the left side of the infield with Brooks and Ozzie. I don't think there's going to be many hits with Robbie at second. And starting pitcher, it was a tough one, Dino. I almost put down 2012 R.A. Dickey.
I know you did. I'm surprised you didn't.
But I decided to go with Pedro. I love Pedro, man. I love the swagger. And then closing that game out to Mo. Go with Mo. Yeah. Closing. What's your all-time team?
This is what my all-time team looks like. The Bulldog is my starting pitcher, Earl Hershiser. He'll get the ball, and he will hand it off in the 9th inning to Mariano Rivera. He'll go 8 strong, maybe scatter a few hits. We won't walk anybody, but then Mo will come and clean it up. Mo and Oro will be throwing to Johnny Bench. Here's a quick funny story. When I was in broadcasting, when I was in TV, and I would be writing highlights out before I would go on, and I would just be scribbling them, and then I would go back and look at a program later for notes. I used Johnny Bench's name for every single name that I didn't know. It just became part of my vocabulary. I love Johnny Bench that much. And then we started just calling people Johnny. And it was really weird when I worked with John Sexsmith and Kevin Carrius. So it was bizarre. So Johnny Bench is my catcher. First base, I'm going with Big Mac. Just like you, I was enthralled with that home run race, even though everything was going on. But even before that, the Bash brothers, McGuire and Canseco, in the late 80s were so much fun. Second baseman, Jackie Robinson. You and I are both big fans of 42, and I got to go with him. I just imagine how great he could have been if he could have started earlier. Like you, I'm going with the Wizard of Oz, and I'm going with a pretty good third baseman that could also hit, Mike Schmidt. So Ozzie Smith, Mike Schmidt on that left side. You got some finesse, you got some power. In left field, The Rock, Tim Raines, a little Expo flavor. To go with Willie Mays and Tony Gwynn. Like, that's a pretty amazing outfield defensively.
You're going to swing it, too. You got some speed.
Yeah.
You're going to swing it.
Yeah,
I like
we're going to play a little small ball sometimes and steal bases. And my DH, like you, I have to have him Babe Ruth. So he can swill a couple of pops on the bench and still come in and kind of get it done.
Yeah. It's versatile. You and I both enjoy the ability to have a versatile lineup. You know, Babe can relax, maybe get some spot time in the outfield.
Yeah, that's right.
Just spell a guy.
Okay, so we also, we're all cooped up and we're worried about our friends and our families right now as well. As you mentioned, you're staying at somebody else to make sure your parents are okay. We're keeping our distance from a lot of people. You know, my family is in Manitoba, so my dad is safe, but I'm worried about him. We're all worried about him. So we thought we would do a top 5 today with family in that mind and baseball families. And, just wasn't that long ago we celebrated Family Day as a country in different provinces. So here are our top 5 families. I'll let you go first. I have yours loaded up. So lay it on us. Who are your top 5 baseball families?
I'm going at number 5 with the Griffeys, Ken and Ken. I love the Griffeys, man. And it's super cool that Senior got to play with Junior in that one highlight where Senior was camped under a ball and Junior came in and took it from him and his smile. Like, that was awesome, man. And how good. Like, Ken Griffey Sr. was no slouch. He was a pretty good player. Just under, like, Hall of Fame. He wasn't a Hall of Famer, but he was a pretty dang good player. And obviously, Junior's Junior. He's my number 5. That's my 5 family. Number 4 is kind of a funny one for me. The Mondesies, Raul and Adalberto. I've got Adalberto in my fantasy. Like, he's a possible 30-30 guy. I love him. He originally came up as Raul Mondesi Jr., but now he's Adalberto. And then Raul Mondesi, man, when he first came up, a good friend of mine, a catcher I played with growing up, Matty Grossman, he was a huge Raul Mondesi fan. And, like, Raul, like, with the Dodgers, I mean, Dino.
Yeah. Power
and speed. He was fun. He was an exciting player.
He was like a earlier kind of version of Yasiel Puig a little bit.
Yeah, totally. So I got them at the 4. In the 3 spot, I've got the Guerreros, Vladimir, and Wilton, Vlad's brother.
Right,
brother. Wilton was kind of funny because he was like the punch and Judy, speedy, scrappy, find a way to get it done guy. And Vlad Senior. I love Vladdy, man. He's one of my favorite players when he was playing.
Sure.
If not my favorite player, like the 5-tool, 30-30, real similar to Larry Walker. Like, both those guys had the cannon, played Gold Glove defense, smash, mash, bombs, could run a bit. Vladdy Guerrero and my Expos.
Sure.
So Vladdy's in there. Number 2, I've got probably like the all-American Godfather baseball family, the Boones. Bob, Aaron, and Brett. Bob Boone, before my time, but obviously a classic name and has been involved in baseball in all sorts of different capacities, coach, player, management, all that stuff. Aaron Boone, obviously, with the Yankees and coined the term savages for baseball. I love that.
Yeah.
I love what Aaron Boone's actually done with the Yankees. And I used to be an evil Empire hater. I haven't been for a while, and it's not because of Aaron Boone, but I like what Aaron Boone brought to the Yankees. And then Brett Boone obviously had a pretty good career, had like 42 bombs back in the day for a second baseman. Not sure how he was able to do that, but there's number 2, and my number 1 baseball family, Dino. It's the Alous.
Nice.
Felipe, Matty, Moises, Jesus, and Felipe's son and Moises' half-brother, Luis Rojas, who's the Mets manager now. So that's a pretty big baseball family. And for me, Dino, like Felipe Alou and the Expos, when the Expos were consistently always like a good team, good program, and then the 94 Expos that were robbed. And then he went to the Giants. I know you got some hate there for the Giants, but Felipe Alou did a great job with the Giants. I love Felipe Alou. I wish I got to play for him, kind of thing. So that's my number one family, the Alous.
I just I can't think of the Alous without that gruesome injury to Moises.
No, dude. I know.
Remember rounding first? I think it was,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
I
So innocent
really
looking.
remember.
So innocent looking.
You know what? Like I tell my guys, around first base is different, but that's the reason Moises' ankle injury, and one of my buddies actually almost did that to his own ankle. There's two reasons. I tell my guys, I'm like, I don't care. You slide every time into second base, into home. Mm-hmm. Don't come with the stop short and try and not slide because there's no throw up. Like, no, just get down. Yeah. Just get down. If you do that to your ankle, man, that's probably a year. And yeah. Unless you're a big leaguer that has established his career, like if you're out for a year, yeah, it might be longer than a year. You might never get back to that level.
Yeah, and who knows what you're going to be like after. All right, so here's my baseball family. Number 5, I am going with the Boones. As you mentioned, baseball royalty, gritty catcher father, and you mentioned it, the Savages. I like that. The Alous for me are number 4. For a lot of the things, and we just talked about Moises. Like I love Moises Alou, man. He was a fun baseball player to watch, and his days, the managing career Felipe speaks for itself. The Griffies are number 3 for me. That story of the pop up is awesome, and it's just like other than the Ripken brothers playing together, it's pretty cool that these two guys played together. Number 2, I'm going with the Bonds family. Yep. And you could almost include Willie Mays in that too, because that's his godfather, right?
Godfather,
so I kind of include that. And number 1 for me, the Necros. I love the Necros. I love Phil and Joe and the things that they were able to do and accomplish as brothers. So a little bit different there at the end than you, and it would be pretty boring if both our lists were the same. But it's great to celebrate baseball families right now when we're all concerned about our families and things like that. And some of these guys in Major League Baseball are doing some fun stuff for people to keep them entertained and things like that, as Josh Donaldson did. So it's all about keeping our wits about us right now and getting through this bizarre time that we're in. And hopefully we did that today for some people.
Yeah, man. Stay safe. Everybody just wash your hands and try and stay away from people. And, let's get this curve flattened for everyone's benefit, right?
You betcha. All right, Jordan, thanks very much for joining me through Skype. We'll continue to do this until we are told, the Prime Minister spoke today and said enough is enough. And if we have to force you to stay home, we will. And you know what? I'm fine with it. I work from home, and I can do it. So it's not a hard thing for me. I hope everybody else follow suit. I think what you did was great, and when we get back together again, we're gonna have one hell of a party, and maybe it'll be at the ballpark.
Yeah, we should. Maybe I'll put that on my list of things to do. Maybe we'll have like an open house or something.
We need to have a big party. So thanks very much for joining me. To everybody out there watching and listening, hope you enjoyed the program. If you did, please subscribe and leave us a review. It really helps us to make sure we get things figured out. And if you'd like to be a part of the program, to advertise, or maybe as a guest, if you think you have a cool story, email us, prospectsbaseballshow@gmail.com. That's prospectsbaseballshow@gmail.com. We do have some fun guests lined up for the next little while. If we can do it, an apparel guy here in the city that not just makes classic baseball apparel, but sports in general. And there's a guy who is wrote a book about baseball cards that is just so niche and funny that I'm looking forward to. So that and unveiling the rest of your team. So we do have some things planned for the next little while. We'll just have to get back in person and do that. But until then, we'll just keep doing our shows like we do right now, today. And that'll just wrap it up then. Thank you so much for joining me, Jordan. Have a good week. Stay isolated. There is just one more thing that has to be said, and that is ban the shift.
It's gone! It's a grand slam! And that's the ball game.